All right, welcome back. This is part two of Max Prime. Oh, this way. Max Prime. Rico, your Sheik of Geek, deciding to, hey, we're going to do some things the fusion way. We just decided to sit there and do the remix of the remix of the remix of just jumping out and talking about all kinds of geek stuff. Now, if you tune in, I don't know if you fell asleep on that last one. We were talking for a good hour about pro wrestling, the state of wrestling. Went on a bunch of tangents. It was great for me just because, yeah, I'm in my geek dome here. Forgive the backdrop here. It's just basically a plain old sheet. It's not as impressive as Max Prime's background, which he has all his wonderful things that he does to celebrate his geek topulus, as it were, in his room.
I shrunk it down.
Prime, what's up, man?
Nothing much. I'm excited to be back, talking comic books with you, and I'm interested in the topics that we're gonna discuss today. And I'm here for it. Let's do it.
This could get dangerous because for those of you who've never heard us talk about comics, okay, we're probably the most opposite in certain ways. Don't get me wrong. I think in the general sense, we love comics. Don't get me wrong. But we kind of delineate and we kind of just go off on our own tangents on what we think is cool, what we think is not. Yeah. So that's probably about as cogent a way of I can express that.
Let me remove the Super Shredder out of the conversation now, and now it should be all DC stuff in the back.
Oh, if that just tells you anything else where this conversation is going to go. So we kind of were thinking maybe we'd throw together a little quick mini compared to our hour-long wrestling conversation, right?
Yeah.
So where do you want to go with this? I know I kind of just jumped the gun and did all kind of things for wrestling. Where do you want to go?
How about I start with this? How about I start with the Eternals movie,
Ooh.
Marvel's Eternals, because I know there's a lot of people out there, particularly on your media pages, who got questions. People are asking me questions about the movie. So you went and seen it. I want to know, what was your general thoughts about the movie before you even start just ripping it apart? So what's your overall thoughts about Eternals?
My overall thought was, why did they rip off, Greek mythology? Because they came from a place called Olympia.
Yes.
A little derivative.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. Right. Their main quasi leader was Icarus. Okay. Who flies? Go figure. And that'll lead. If you've seen the movie, you know how it ends. And yeah, very, very poetic ending to his part of the movie. Go figure. I mean, you got all these people who are, you got Angelina Jolie's character named Athena without the A.
Yes.
Who's a warrior who, if you know anything about Greek mythology, Athena was the goddess of war or something like that, or battle or something. Basically, she was a badass. So they even made a little notion of it. Oh, you're the goddess Athena? No, Athena. She actually made a note of it, right? But overall, my general overall encompassing idea of that, besides the whole I ripped off Greek mythology thing, is it felt like it was leading to something bigger, essentially opening up the space version of the Marvel universe. Okay. Whether that be leading into Guardians of the Galaxy, Galactus at some point, it's got like an obvious thing, maybe Silver Surfer at some point, Adam Warlock, et cetera, et cetera. It just felt like it's going to basically lead to all of it, tie up a bunch of loose ends in the Marvel universe, but leading to space.
So that being said, why is there such a mixed reaction over this film?
Well, I think because the average person, and don't get me wrong, there's people of varied level of knowledge on heroes, comics, whatever, right? Okay. I think right now, this wasn't a superhero per se movie. Okay. I think that's what people are kind of torn on, right? Because if you go to a Spider-Man movie, the superhero is there. If you go to a Superman movie, good guy versus bad guy is going to be happening. There's going to be conflict. It's going to be like, hey, this is what we're familiar with these guys because they've been out in public. Nobody that I knew anything about the Eternals. Like casual people off the street, they're like, who are the Eternals? Did they just make them up for the movie or what? not knowing that good old Jack, the King Kirby, had their dealings with it back in the year. And I'll be honest with you, I had fringe knowledge of the Eternals, and I consider myself. When you call yourself the Sheik of Geek, right? You kind of have to know a little something, right?
Yeah.
I think that not having a lot of familiarity lends to some of that. The fact that I think the casual person doesn't know where it's going, as far as, okay, how does this tie to the MCU?
Okay.
I think might have lent to that as well. Usually, Marvel has a tradition of every movie leads to something else. It's always leading to the next big thing or tying to the next movie, next character we're going to introduce, right?
Yeah.
But this one, I think people weren't sure. What, they've been here since the beginning of time? What?
Yeah.
What? Are they immortal or can they die? The people. I think I got that question by a couple of people. Like, so I don't get it. The name's Eternals. Are they gods or what? So unfamiliarity and maybe not being clear on where they're going with this is probably the main problem with it to the casual fan.
So for a person who is used to the space hero movies like Guardians of the Galaxy, or used to Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe a little bit of Thor, because I know Thor kind of involves like other realms, a little bit space, a little bit other realms and everything. So to the casuals, they would probably be like, like you said, what is happening? That's that.
I think the casuals are going to say, I've never heard of these guys.
Okay.
But they are very good looking. And probably say, I am down to watch this. I'll give it a shot because Salma Hayek looks great.
So was Shang-Chi, now we're not going to, open up Shang-Chi and everything, but was Shang-Chi done in a similar aspect like Eternals, or are they just the flow of the movie is completely different?
The flow was totally different. I loved Shang-Chi. Without question, without reservation. I'm telling you, everybody I've spoken to who's watched it has had a great reaction to it. It was grounded enough, to put it this way, the difference between Eternals and Shang-Chi from a aesthetic point of view, rather, is just that Shang-Chi was very grounded. I mean, aside from obviously the 10 rings being a little bit more magical based, it was very, I'm a guy off the street type mentality. Whereas Eternals had a very high and mighty, and for lack of a better way of saying it, I am a god type person to these people. I'm like, we are here basically to be here and guide them, humanity as a whole. Whereas Shang-Chi was, I'm just trying to figure out who I am and what my place is in this world. Okay. So it was a lot more street level. It was grounded more in human level, whereas the Eternals movie was a little more about them guiding the humans, as it were.
So should we give the spoiler warning now that we're going to open up?
Do it.
Spoiler alert. We're going to now talk about, deep into the movie. So if you haven't seen it at this point, we already got our analytics for view count. So at this point, you can turn the video off. We still got our view. But so
damn.
Spoiler.
Hashtag spoiler alert. Hashtag. Do not listen further if you don't want to hear what happened.
Exactly. So
I think legally we are covered now.
That being said, I get a lot of questions about the end credits of the movie, because I'm getting questions for those who have seen the movie. What does all that mean? I'm getting questioned on both scenes. So can you explain, like, especially to them or even to me, like what was that all about?
Well, you remember I called you literally when I got out of the theater.
Yes.
Let me pull back the curtain, Mr. Wizard. And I said, I got to talk to Max real quick. I got in the car. I didn't put it in drive. I just dialed. I said, listen, I got to ask you about this end credit scene, and I got to ask you about what you know about it. He's saying, what are you talking about? Exactly, right? So anyway, let me kind of frame it a little bit. Again, spoiler alert, if you didn't watch it, proceed at your own risk. So anyway, the one credit scene had Kit Harington's character, you may know him as Jon Snow from the Game of Thrones series, playing a character who we all know is going to end up being the Black Knight, right? He's been kind of in and out of the movie, and he was on Fringe. He was dating one of the main characters, and he was always hinting at my family lineage, which, if you know anything about the Black Knight, it's a title handed down from generation to generation, and it's he's always basically debating whether or not he should use this thing called the what is it, the Ebony Blade?
Yes.
Something like, yeah. So it's basically the next best thing to Excalibur. Long story short, right? So at the end credit scene, he's debating on whether or not he wants to wield this, and you can see actually like the actual blade is basically alive. So you see things moving on it, blah blah blah. It reacts to him getting closer to it. Right when he's about to grab it, a voice from the background says, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And everybody freaked out because I was thinking at first, was that Nick Fury? But it didn't quite sound like it, and I wasn't sure. So I had to call Max. I said, "Hey, what the hell do you know about it?" I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a DC guy." That's almost exactly what he said, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you could feel like I did a word painting there, didn't you? You felt like you were there. Yeah. Eventually, we figured out that voice was the actor Mahershala Ali, which, if you've been keeping track of the Marvel Universe, is going to be the next actor to tackle Blade the Vampire Hunter.
Yeah.
So essentially, you have the voice of Blade talking to a guy who, ironically, is about to wield a black blade. Go figure. And we haven't seen him. He's actually never shown up in public yet in that character yet. So that's going to lead to a lot of things, interesting things. Now, when you talk about the relationship between Blade and the Black Knight, that kind of leads into the Midnight Suns group, basically, who deal with a lot of mystical type problems. So there's actually, by the way, a video game coming out in 2022 called Midnight Suns, which is going to incorporate some other more well-known characters. So you'll see characters like Ghost Rider. You'll also see, I believe they're going to try to work Morbius into that game, but I don't think they're going to use him in the movie, though.
I think like wasn't also like Wolverine and like
I saw Iron Man.
Yeah, like Ghost Rider.
Yeah, maybe Cosmic Ghost Rider if they decide to go that way. If you know anything about Ghost Rider, you know there's more than one. So it could be either the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider, it could be the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider, or it could be my favorite Ghost Rider who rides around in a Charger, who was actually, side note, very well portrayed in Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, Reyes, I can't remember his first name off the top of my head. I thought it was amazing the way they did it, especially for TV quality. So, so the bottom line in all this is you have Blade the Vampire Hunter, who most people I think right about now are pretty familiar with as a character, thanks to Wesley Snipes. And now being taken over by Mahershala Ali, all of a sudden crossing over to this. So while this movie in general is basically something to introduce, in my opinion, the universal type characters, it also kind of opened up the door to the possibility of more earthly things and things that were from other parts of the earth, other realms of earth. So things have to do with magic and werewolf by night and things of that nature, things of that.
Okay.
So could it cross over with Doctor Strange? Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. So if you had to rank it, or even if you just like say, because you already gave the overview, you talked about like the end credit scenes and then how everybody was absolutely beautiful in this movie. So
they were so pretty. I gotta tell you. Keep joking about that. I mean, geez, the makeup crew must have been paid $1 bazillion because it was amazing. The wardrobe crew were glad. They must have had them shipped from all over the world. They were just beautiful people.
So I mean, where do you like so? Because if you honestly had to give your even a rating for this film, do you think you would have rated it as low as most of the critics did, or would you give, since you're obviously a fan of Marvel and everything and understand a lot of it, like I mean, do you still give it a low score like most critics?
I won't. try to be fair about this.
Okay.
The way I look at it this way is, if I was going to put it on let's do what I like to do with a scale of 1 to 5. If I'm putting a scale of 1 to 5, 3.5 maybe. And the reason I'm saying that is this, because I'm going in with the idea that if you follow the Marvel formula, it's always going to lead to something, and it's going to lead to other people, other places, other comic book related, basically opening up the comic book vault, as it were.
Okay.
So you're going to see, I mentioned things like, the Midnight Suns. You know it's going to lead to Moon Knight, because that's already being worked on. You know what I mean? So you're always kind of looking at it as a place marker. Okay, once we put this here, who else can we get? Who else can we throw in here to expand the Marvel cinematic universe, so we can actually open up this area, so these people who we've been wanting to use for years, people can stop looking at just the Avengers, just Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep telling people all the time, like, for example, the problem with the X-Men movies, in my opinion, is, why the hell are we seeing Magneto in every damn movie? You know how many enemies they got? Do you have any mutants in general? Not even counting just mutants in general, who they can have in that movie franchise. Yeah, they keep focusing on just the basics. The ones that keep coming back for more, I guess. Spider-Man, same thing. Why do we have to have Green Goblin every freaking movie in the first series and shit? So I'm like, yeah, you're bugging. So, the rogues galleries are huge. So this gives them license to go up and just basically expand it exponentially in different directions. So I would say, to answer your question, 3, maybe 3.5 out of 5.
So choking here. Hold on. I kept my breath. Okay. So
man, I did all the talking. What the heck? Why are you driving?
This Marvel. Okay. How do I work? Okay. So if you gave it a 3, so then with most Marvel movies, you would say that you've watched now, because we obviously watched phase 1, 2, 3, 4. Are we in the 4 or 5? I'm losing count.
I don't know. I don't do phases.
would those be would those be rated 4 to 5 basically? Is that how you see it?
I rate them out of 5, and some are better than others. I have my sentimental favorites for one reason or another. I mean, I can watch Captain America, the first Captain America movie, over and over, only because that was one of the best, if not the best, origin stories.
Yeah.
I watched Black Widow. I can take it or leave it, honestly.
Yeah.
I think it's almost like it's a victim of when it came out. It came out it felt like 50 years after Endgame. Yeah. What it felt like it, because of the pandemic, right? Yeah. So it lost a lot of its momentum. Because remember, I don't know, fanboys everywhere were freaking crying as soon as Black Widow died in that movie, and it was like, are you kidding me? And if it would have come out right after that, or even within 6 months, whatever it is, not waited a couple of years, I think it would have felt better. So I think timing is one thing, where it's going is another. How it's tying into the TV series was okay. You can kind of see where it's going with the new Black Widow, and the new team that's kind of sort of being assembled there. Yeah.
So lastly, about the Eternals, how would you, if someone asked you, should I go see this movie and why, if they were the casual Marvel moviegoer, how would you
Yes, you should go see it. Number one, you should always see where the cinematic universe is going. So if you're a completist like me, you're kind of going to see it to kind of see what the architectural plans are. You definitely want to see it. But you can also see it, enjoy it as a movie in and of itself. The one thing me personally, I kind of got annoyed with all the filigree electronic things they kept floating out and everything like that. The weapons that they used, and Fausto, when he created the little things, he just popped out of his hands. It looked like basically Tony Stark when he was trying to create something. He had a hologram, but it was like magic. So that annoyed me from a personal view. I thought it was kind of weird. But other than that, you can enjoy it as a movie in and of itself. But if you're a completist like me and you kind of just need to know where it's going, where it's leading, what is going to happen from here, and what the possibilities are, you got to see it.
So, that being said, I might see it. I might see it. You convinced me. I know there was a lot of sighing in there when I'd ask these questions. I might see it. You convinced me a little bit.
Well, I look at it this way. I'm going to keep it fair because I try to be fair about this kind of thing, and you made it you kind of served that one up to me. All right. Yeah. So because I know that Mr. DC Insider there, as you can always tell by his background there, Jeez. Let me ask this question. I'm going to ask you about an upcoming DC project.
Okay.
And I think you know which one I'm going to come to because it's probably going to change how people perceive the DC universe as we know it, because it does star our favorite wrestler turned actor, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and we are talking about none other than Black Adam.
Yes, when they showed just that 20-second clip, and maybe I'll even just play the clip without volume so we don't get like flagged or anything, but or copyrighted. But when I seen that clip of let me just I'll bring it up in the marquee. But first,
are you having a geekasm right now?
First of all, back when they announced it like a year ago or whenever it was 2 years, how long ago? How long has it been now, man? Like they announced that in like 2016.
Year and a half, at least.
I mean, like when
it was right before the pandemic, right?
Well, I mean, like when they first
they made it official.
Because I think it was like might have been 2019 when like The Rock and like DC had made their announcement that yes, he would play Black Adam, but there was no like artwork, there was no no set shots, no nothing. You know what I mean? It was just like, oh, I'm gonna play Black Adam. And remember when he took the picture with like Henry Cavill, like drinking like tequila, so then it was like, okay, we know that it was gonna happen. I was already semi-excited because I always anticipated The Rock. I always envisioned him being Black Adam because like just that I know you've all probably seen the picture of Black Adam sitting on a throne of skulls, and he just kind of has that like short receding hairline like The Rock has.
Yes, that widow's peak, whatever.
Yes. And I'm like, oh, that was the first person I thought of. Like, dude, The Rock would fit that perfect. And I said it for years. And I'm like, The Rock has a receding hairline. Like, that's it, And so let's fast forward to the DC Fandom event, right? DC Fandom had dropped a lot of, crazy trailers like the Batman and the Flash movie. But we're talking about Black Adam. And so, okay, I got to bring it up. I'll bring it up. I
know you're going to do it. That's why I served that one up for you, bro.
So I'm super excited about Black Adam. Yes, I'm a little bit worried about like, I hope that The Rock does like a decent job. And when I say decent, like I know The Rock does a lot of movies and like, I mean, he's done like a handful of movies where he kind of plays the same character over and over and over again,
you could argue, I guess.
He always wears like that. There's that joke about like like the Jungle Cruise movie where he wore that like beige like button up,
the button down,
and he always wears that in the same every other action movie that he's in. Like it's always the same character.
I just watched Red Notice the other day, and he looked eerily similar to his Jungle Cruise. I mean, to his Jumanji outfit. That's what I was thinking of. I was thinking of Jumanji. That's what I was thinking of.
Let's see if I can whip this thing up without volume here. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm really excited. I hope they keep it as brutal as they say, or as he said it was going to be brutal in it. Like he's really going to be true to the character. I was excited that you actually seen some of the members of the JSA in there, like with Dr. Fate,
Pierce Brosnan,
and like
007 himself is going to be Dr. Fate. Ain't that crazy?
What's even more crazy about that is that like we have a mutual reviewer, remember Big Derek?
Yeah. Biggest Dr. Fate fan I've ever seen in my life.
I feel like he's the only Dr. Fate fan on the entire planet Earth.
I'm convinced he's actually looking for the helmet of fate, but just me. I'm just saying, I'm speculating. I don't know anything in detail.
Shout out to
Yeah.
Derek. I know you're out there, man. But okay, so let me yeah, there we go. Is that playing? So this scene here, when she says the word Shazam, that's the moment of that little teaser clip that sent like chills down my spine. I was like, oh, she said the word. She called down the fuel, and then she called down. I don't know if that's like if they edited that to where like Black Adam appears immediately, but she said Shazam. I know there's probably like a gap in editing, but like I was like, oh, this is it. And then the part when like Black Adam actually grabs the guy and then just like electrocutes him, like that's just ridiculous. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I wanted.
I don't even think he wore a muscle suit, by the way. He just no, I'm being serious. I think they made a comment about he didn't even need one.
Wow. Yeah. I was like, yeah, he caught the bullet, like the Superman act. Yeah.
Now, here's a question for you about this. I mean, you may know this just because you're Mr. DC Insider guy. Is this going to be an actual like an origin movie for him, like from back in the day? Because he's actually like what, hundreds of thousands of years old, whatever it is. Or is it going to be something that ties him to Shazam now with Billy Batson?
This is going to be a little bit of both. It's going to be, they're going to show a little bit of his origin, like how he was in Kandak.
I was just going to say, Kandak, and they're going to show a big thing of Kandak and how he came from being Teth Adam, as it were.
Yes. And then obviously that scene where obviously those are, I don't know if those are like tomb robbers or like people that were trying to break into. I don't even know if that scene is just like, because that's not like the room with the chairs, and where
that's not the with the Rock of Eternity.
Rock of Eternity, yeah, exactly. I don't think that's the Rock of Eternity. I think that might be just some place in Kandak, like where they had like maybe it was one of his tombs or something. And
well, because even in Shazam, they mentioned the one that they thought was going to be, and he's the missing person or something.
Yes, yeah. Yes. And so like that scene with the guys with the guns come in there and stuff, like, so obviously they're like trying to like find his tomb or his whatever, try to find Black Adam with that archaeologist who says Shazam. And so yeah, you're gonna see like future day Black Adam in the present, and you're also gonna see the members of the JSA probably. Remember, at one point in time, Black Adam, he was the bad guy, then he became like the gray anti-hero character where he was a member of the JSA with like Atom Smasher, Dr. Fate, all those guys, because those guys know him, Right. So I don't know where this exactly the story's going, but I have a feeling like they might be in there to kind of like try to calm Adam down, because once Black Adam goes into a rage, that's it.
That's just crazy. I mean, the only reason I know about all that is because of you anyway, because you used to drop those comics on my desk, and I actually sat there and read those joints because like, all right, I'll give it a shot. Okay, yeah, he looks cool. Let me see who he is. I'm like, holy crap, this is actually an interesting story. So I'll give you props on that. You got to turn me on to Mr. Teth Adam himself.
And the only other thing with the Atom Smasher thing, and like, because Atom Smasher was Black Adam's friend technically in the JSA, and then even when he separated from them and went on his own, because remember, Black Adam's on his own. He just does whatever he wants to do. He just whatever the feeling of the day is. If he wants to be good, he wants to be bad. He just does whatever he wants to do. So that being said, Hawkman is also in that movie too. And I know like there was a comic book that came out recently, like even right before the rebirth happened of DC Comics, where like it was like Hawkman fighting Black Adam, because that's the only other badass person with a badass attitude that matches Black Adam's attitude, if you think about it.
Hawkman, also ancient type dude who was back in the day, who reincarnates himself from the Egyptian / African area.
Also using magic. Also, remember, he has the magic little. He has like the magic like amulet fist thing that
gauntlet thing, whatever.
Yep.
They look like Lionel's claw shield.
Exactly. Exactly. So I'm super pumped. I'm amped up. I have a lot of faith in this. Hopefully, it turns out the way I want it to turn out, and you're gonna get a totally different tone than Shazam.
Awesome. Yeah, that's all. See, I figured I had to balance it out. You know what I mean? I was in there. I let you go do your thing. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Wow, we've already been talking for a half hour. That's crazy.
Yes. Let's end it.
I got to tell you guys, it gets a little dangerous when we try to say, I'm going to do something real quick, because, when it comes to stuff that you like talking about, it doesn't end up being real quick. So I guess we're going to end it up here. Again, my name is Rico. I am your Sheik of Geek. Again, like I did the last video, which was twice as long as this one. I shamelessly plug Geek Wars here. You know, just saying, hey, just check me out on you know, Instagram and Facebook, and check it out. Subscribe, or just be a member, or just hit the likes and just say, hey, you loved or hated what I talked about. Then, of course, you got my man Max Prime. We're pointing it the wrong direction here. Basically, X Prime is all over the place. Tell me where we can find you there, bro.
YouTube. Find me on YouTube, Max Prime Reviews, and like I said, Instagram, the story arcs, spelled out, the story arcs. The
story arcs is actually something else that another collabo he does. He's all over the place. So if you like your geek fix, tune in to either Geek Wars, tune in to Max Prime Reviews over here, or story arcs. Get your geek on. And like I tell people all the time who tune into Geek Wars, let it be written, so let it be geek, because you could be that geek.